So I don't know about you, but I find it to be very annoying to find small gaps in places that'll be difficult to fill once a project has been glued up. What's even more aggravating is seeing hints of glue remaining after the piece has been sanded and stained. I've tried a number of different ways to fix these issues, and I'll tell you what doesn't work: using wood filler. But I've found a fix that's easy to do, and you might be quite surprised on what the main ingredient is. So stick around, and I'll show you this ultimate game changer for fixing these mistakes.
I recently made these rustic style table placards, and after gluing these up, I noticed this small gap along the bottom and didn't want to leave it this way. To me, it looked unfinished, and I wanted to make sure that the customer was going to be happy with the way they looked as well. So what did I use to fill the gaps? Glue. Yep, that's right, glue. I know, you're probably wondering, how is that going to make this look any better? Well, I'm going to show you. After running a bead of glue across the bottom, I'm using my finger to work it into the bottom gap and corners. Then I'll use a damp rag to wipe up any excess. After letting the glue set up for about 20 minutes or so, it's time to start adding a little bit of black paint to blend this all together. You only need a small amount of paint, and keep in mind that this technique is being used on a stained finish, so depending on what your color medium is, this might not work for you. But I will say, I have used this technique on painted projects as well to give an old distressed look. I'm starting out by adding a thin line of the black. I'm only putting a very small amount of paint on the brush because I don't want it to spread out. Only cover the glue line. Take your time, but it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm extending the black along the bottom of the frame pieces as well, and start blending the paint with a damp rag before the paint dries. This won't wipe the paint off completely, it's just going to add to the blending effect. Here's a tip: set the piece you're working on an arm's length away to see what it looks like from a distance. Continue working any gaps or other spots you want to cover with the brush and wiping. I do this in small increments as to not let the paint dry too quickly. So I had a little bit of glue squeeze out that didn't get sanded off completely and ultimately showed up after the stain was applied. I probably could have sanded again and restained it, but then I wouldn't have this video for you to watch. For this part, I'm going to use the dry brush technique. I'm barely touching the paint on the plate with the paintbrush and just start working the paint that was already on the brush onto the area that I'm trying to cover up. By the way, yes, I am doing the backside of these placards because I want the entire piece to be consistent with the same look and feel. So I just wiped the brush with a damp rag. I wasn't trying to wipe off the remaining paint, I was actually activating any of the black that was still on the bristles without dipping it in water. If I had dipped it, the brush would be too wet and it would cause the black to smear instead of creating these shadow effects. Continue working on the blending until it gets to a point that you're satisfied with the look, and then you're done. Alright, that about wraps things up on fixing gaps and glue spots after staining. Thanks for sticking around and watching the video.